Hello there. Good morning or good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are watching from. Welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where I talk about what has the internet buzzing in terms of Scientology news, as well as my own story of growing up in Scientology, being in it for 35 years, and escaping with 3 generations of my family. Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody in the chat. Dip Me and Glitter and Nancy, good to see you there too. Lord Zenu, Clea, hello everybody. If you're catching this on the replay, make sure that you jump into the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions as we go, put those in the comments as well. Or if you're with us here in the chat. If you're new to my channel, or if you've been here before, make sure you check that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it if you hit that and hit the like button as well. We got a lot to cover. And I've got something I want to get into. We're going to talk about, of course, we're going to talk about things that happened yesterday in Hollywood with Scientology protests, but I also want to start talking about Scientology front groups. What are they? Have you already been sucked in by one? What do you need to watch? Which ones are they? We are going to be getting into that actually kind of day after day, because I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about it because I was thinking about it the other day. But I will get into that. My Tony is here in the chat. Good to see you, babe. Thank you for your help. Super Pup, Debbie, we are getting going. It is such a hip, hip, hooray for a cult-free day. That's all I got to say. Now, I have links below in my description to the different videos that we're going to be talking about. One of the big things that happened yesterday was the LAPD put out a statement, put out a press release, and Aaron Smith Levin of Growing Up in Scientology responded to it. And if you're not caught up, long story short, Aaron is from Growing Up in Scientology. He has done a lot of work, continues to expose the abuses of Scientology. He went to the protests in LA. This whole Scientology op happened. He was detained, held for hours. It was totally a false arrest. It's been all over the internet. People are still talking about it, and we will for some time to come. This press release, though, this press release that the LAPD, I keep wanting to say that Scientology put out, but it was put out by the LAPD, was something else. I think I have a let's see, do I have a thing I can just pop up here with it? And then maybe we'll just take a quick look at it. In the community tab of my channel, there's a link to it as well. But if you just take a quick peek here, you see when it came out. It references a video circulating depicting an altercation between 2 individuals near a Church of Scientology building. Both parties were transported to Hollywood Station for further investigation. In addition to interviewing the parties involved, detectives reviewed a significant amount of video evidence. Did they now? Did they? After much consideration, apparently it was consideration that took them like 4 to 6 hours, only one individual was arrested for battery. The individual arrested has no known association with the Church of Scientology. Excuse me? They obviously didn't watch certain videos because they would have seen that there is a relationship there and that there is a history there. But I'm confused because they're saying after interviewing the parties involved and a significant amount of video evidence, seems like they would have come to that conclusion and seen that there's a relationship, but they don't, and it's not on there. So what does that all mean? Other weird thing is the LAPD felt that they needed to call out the fact that, oh yeah, this guy doesn't have a relationship with the Church of Scientology. Why would you say that? Why would you bring it up? It's because it was near a Church of Scientology building. That sounds like something to me. And this is just my 2 cents here. This is just what I think. It's almost like Scientology said, hey, make sure you call out that we don't have a relationship with this guy. And this is the man, Patrick Perry, who assaulted Aaron Smith Levin down the street from the Hollywood Testing Center. It was caught on video on multiple angles. There's no questioning it. Yet somehow Aaron was hauled off in handcuffs. And by the way, he was handcuffed before the man who assaulted him was handcuffed. Now, we know that when officers arrived on the scene, not even the scene where it happened, because the police did not come right away, because unlike when Scientology makes the call, boom, police show up right away. They did not show up right away. But we know when they did, down a ways, as things were moved away, conveniently away from the Hollywood Testing Center, Officer TALMAN shows up. And we've been hearing a lot about him, and we were going to hear a lot more about him. Scientology Audit Streets LA has been sharing quite a bit about him on Twitter. We're going to see more of that on YouTube. Aaron himself is going to be doing multiple videos and clips sharing about this and what's happening. And what we know is that when Officer TALMAN arrived, part of his intimidation tactic was to tell Aaron that, well, if you want to press charges on this guy, you want to do a personal persons arrest, isn't that what it's called, a PPA? We're going to have to arrest you for felony stalking, because that's not intimidating. That's not an intimidation tactic, right? He wouldn't be doing that, would he? No. It was 100% a false arrest. We all know this. It's like anybody who sees the footage and stuff knows this and recognizes this. Aaron is going to be bringing a lawsuit, and he is going to be getting his hands on body cam and all kinds of different things. We've also been seeing on the internet multiple photos and links to articles where Officer TALMAN is singing at the Church of Scientology. There is no questioning that he is an ally of the Church of Scientology. And I mean, let's just say it, right? He did this for his Scientology handlers, for his Scientology overlords. The way that he has behaved, the way that he's continued to show up, knowing that it's all being videoed, knowing that it's all being live streamed, one, makes him dangerous. Secondly, makes me, the first thing I think is, I mean, let's be honest. I think with most of us, we don't act a fool in public. We try to, show up with our best foot forward, especially when it involves your job, because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to lose your source of income, right? Kind of your whole life depends on that. This is a man that's showing up and doing things as if he doesn't care, thinks somehow his job is guaranteed, or I don't know, I'm just speculating. Does he have some kind of safety net? Is someone going to float him if he gets fired by the LAPD for showing all this favoritism towards Scientology while illegally detaining people who are out practicing their First Amendment right, who are out protesting Scientology? Are they harassing them? Would he be doing that? No. Yeah. These are all the questions, and the truth is going to come out. The more that gets exposed, the more people that see this, it's all going to continue to come out. And I am here for all of it. So if you see something, say something. Email me at natalie@tonkatalk.com. Really helps if you give me kind of a timestamp to a video if that's what you're sharing. So much is coming out about this guy. In the coming weeks and months, Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology is going to share much more. This is where we're really going to find out a lot about this. Now, Aaron shared, and I have a link to his video in the description here, his reaction to this LAPD press release that claims that there's no ties to Scientology for Patrick Perry, who's the man who had the dog who assaulted Aaron. Yet there's videos all over the place showing Patrick Perry with his dog outside the front of Scientology, hanging out with his organization members. His dog is playing with them, loves them. Apparently, the dog is fine if you're a Scientologist, but if you're a protester, that dog starts getting vicious, barking, and has bitten people. But you know what? I don't want to blame the dog, because animals are trained and handled by humans. So I think this dog is a victim in all of this as well. I feel sorry for the dog. I do. Hate to see that, because if there's enough complaints about the dog and he really does continue to harm people, that could not be a good ending for the dog. And I would hate to see that. Now, Aaron shared in his video, I thought this was really interesting, that when he was being detained and chained to a metal bench, he talked about how the officer TALMAN was like, put him in the bathroom. A rookie cop put him in the bathroom. Another cop came and was like, hey, you can't do that. That's gross. That's disgusting. They got him out of there. Obviously harassment, right? No one interviewed Aaron during this time. Yet this press release says they were interviewed. Aaron himself shared that didn't happen. One detective came in and made a couple comments and left, and he never saw him again. Never saw him again. And people, other protesters who were there supporting Aaron, who were waiting in the front office and outside, were told that Aaron would be arrested for felony stalking, booked, and would be spending the weekend there. That was not true. That was actually probably never true. This was a tactic to hold Aaron for hours in handcuffs to try and intimidate him into silence, and we know it's not going to work. And it's just completely backfiring because so many people now are following what's happening with Scientology and what's happening with this story, what's going to come of it. So really, it's horrible that that happened to Aaron, but it's kind of great at the same time because of the result of what's going to happen because of it. And we know that one thing Scientology knows how to do is shoot themselves in the foot and have things completely backfire on them. This is what we are going to continue. We're going to continue to see. Aaron even told TALMAN at one point, he says to him, have you realized the magnitude of the mistake that you've made? And TALMAN didn't. This guy is so cocky. When you watch the video on Aaron's feed of when this went down the other day, you see TALMAN come out and play mayor and glad hand and all that. But you could feel like the ick factor immediately, which I thought was interesting. At first I thought, well, was that just me? Was that my reaction? And you tell me in the comments in the chat, did you get an initial like, ew, ooh, this is not good. This just doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. I know I did. I got the total heebie-jeebies about it. And he confirmed those suspicions by his behavior, right? So definitely, if you haven't already, check out Aaron's reaction to that. I got it linked to the description. So yesterday, Aaron and others went back to the Blue Buildings on L. Ron Hubbard Way. That's where I spent most of my time when I was in the SEA organization. I lived in the Blue Buildings. I worked in the Blue Buildings. I left from the Blue Buildings. I returned to the Blue Buildings. I left again. I rescued my daughter from the Blue Buildings. One of these days, I feel like I need to go. I've not been back there since I left Scientology, and it kind of creeps me out. My hands sweat every time I think about it. So it's something I think eventually I'm going to do, is just go and be there again, outside of Scientology, and see it with the eyes I have today, because leaving Scientology is a process, and you shedding that cult culture is a process. How I see Scientology today, how I see a lot of what happened to me and 3 generations of my family has really changed, because I've been able to identify and put words to things that I was convinced were not abusive, were not human rights abuses, but actually were. And I see that now, even in my family. But it happens more and more, because the more I talk about this, the more I remember, oh yeah, that's right, that happened. And oh my gosh, that was totally a human rights abuse. That was completely illegal. This is a great thing that, you just continue to, I think, as you go through the process of leaving a cult or a high control group. That's been my process in leaving Scientology, and being here on YouTube is part of it too, because hearing, especially those of you never in Scientology, hearing your thoughts, how you see it, how you process it, what you call it, very helpful. I love it. So Aaron, from growing up in Scientology, a bunch of other people who I've shared their videos in the description, are outside the Blue Buildings. Now, Aaron used to work in the SEA organization at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles. That was primarily the building they were out in front of. And Chris Without a Hellcat, who is a live streamer who's here on YouTube, I think he's on TikTok too, was there. He'd been there for a few days. And you could still see in the window of the building. Well, he shows up all of a sudden. The windows are tinted. So Scientology got busy tinting some windows and putting up more window coverings. Why? Why, you ask? What could they possibly have to hide? Well, let's see. Julian Schwartz, who's somebody that authorities are looking for, who was videotaped by Chris Without a Hellcat right there in the building, yet they're told they don't know where he is. But there he was. So now we've got window tinting out. We've got more coverings. They put a giant curtain in front of the front door. But here's the funny thing. When Chris Without a Hellcat first got there yesterday, those curtains weren't closed because they're not going to have it like that all the time because that just looks creepy because it is. Now, Scientology didn't close the blinds until he walked away. And then they ran up and, and closed the blinds. I thought that was really interesting. Like, oh, wow, why not just go up when he's there and close the blinds if you want to close the blinds? They're blaring music now outside of the blue buildings as a tactic, thinking it will shut down the live streams. And that's just not happening. Now, I have a complaint. I actually have a big complaint. I have a big complaint, Scientology, over at those blue buildings at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles. Fine, play your music. At the Hollywood Testing Center, they play better music. And that's probably just my personal point of view. But I felt a couple of the songs were okay that they were playing, but it sounded like a playlist of somebody who was maybe a little bit more into, I don't know, what would you guys call it if you heard it? Tell me in the chat in the comments. Wasn't it kind of like 80s rock, which I love the 80s. I'm Gen X. That was back in the day, but it's just the music's just not hitting me the same way. So I would like to put in a request to the Office of Special Affairs and Scientology that if you're going to play music, play something that's just more, I don't know, more that you can dance to because it really adds to the atmosphere. So that's my complaint about that. And now I'm going to let it go. Maybe we should create a playlist. Right? Maybe we should do that. Maybe we could come with a Scientology protesting playlist and help them out. Be kind. You like the retro music. You liked it. Yeah. See, it's personal. It's a personal thing, right? We don't all like the same music. It was some Gen X music, Jane Post, definitely Gen X music. But I feel like there's maybe because I was just into different types of music back in the day. I'm glad some of you like it, but I'm still complaining about it. And I want to see different music. I would like to see better music. We need a playlist. We need to give them some suggestions. We need to help Scientology with their music choices. You know what? Y'all just need to be grateful that they're not playing The Road to Freedom, which is an album written by L. Ron Hubbard and performed by Frank Stallone, Leif Garrett, a whole bunch of people that are or were Scientologists. So they're out there on L. Ron Hubbard Way in front of the blue buildings and talking to, trying to talk to Scientologists as they walk by. At one point, they speak to this woman who I think said she was Russian. And this is the interesting thing here that we're seeing outside of Scientology buildings, a disproportionate number of people from outside the country. There have always been people from outside the country in Scientology, definitely in my day when I was there. But we're seeing a disproportionate number, which makes you wonder, are people in the United States catching on about Scientology? Are so many more Scientologists waking up to the fact that they are in a cult? Because trust me when I tell you, when you're in a cult, you usually do not know you are in a cult. I didn't. I was in there for 35 years before it really I understood that it was a cult because of the Scientology propaganda. And we're going to get into that too a little bit today. I'm actually really excited about that. So they're speaking to this woman and she's freely talking. I think she said she had been around Scientology for 5 years, which makes you think like she should know better because Scientologists know security and Scientology doesn't want you talking to people about Scientology. Because let's not forget, first rule about Scientology, don't talk about Scientology. Yet here she is. So even though she was, in Scientology for 5 years, as I think she said, it doesn't mean she's really that trained in Scientology. There's people who've been Scientology for decades that don't get far in Scientology. They're kind of all over the place. Well, what happens? Security guard comes out and whisks her away. I mean, physically puts hands on her to move her away and take her into the building. It was creepy as hell. It really was. I was like, wow. There, and the guy is like, that's how he walks. He's got this beard, no expression. I think he's actually outside security. I'm not 100% positive about that. Now, another thing when they were walking around the building is that they found the industrial-sized paper shredder, which is just past the horseshoe driveway. Because in Scientology and the SEA organization, you're not throwing paper away. You're not throwing papers away. Remember, this is an organization that will go through the garbage of Scientology critics. It's been well documented where they've done this. They will pay people who remove the garbage, sanitation workers, to to give them the garbage on the side of the road. There's like videos of it on the internet. It's completely documented. It is a whole thing. So I think it's so interesting that Scientology is so paranoid. So everything gets shredded. So the giant industrial shredder was found and seen. Also, while walking on L1 Hubbard Way, a police car drove by and gave the people a thumbs up, which I thought was interesting. At one point, I don't know if it was the same or another police officer in a police car comes up and tells Aaron and people who were there, hey, just make sure you don't block the entrances. We didn't see you block it, but we got a call. He was almost apologetic about it. You really got the vibe that he's like, yeah, I got Scientology's number. I know. So it really does seem not everybody in the LAPD is in Scientology's pocket or approves of what they are doing or supports it or is working for them like some people are that we're pretty sure, right? So I thought that was interesting. Now, another dude comes down the street. I think it was Liz Gale, Liz Gale on YouTube and TikTok. Follow her if you aren't already. She's there as well. And she had a great conversation with a Scientologist named Kevin, who'd been in Scientology since 1984. This was very surprising to me that, he stopped to talk. I guess it was a little surprising because he's been long enough to know. But this goes to show when you approach a Scientologist in a way that's not where they're not feeling threatened and automatically put on the defense. I mean, let's be real. I don't care who you are, but let's just talk outside of Scientology. If somebody comes up to you, hey, I got a question for you. We're doing videos about blah, blah, blah. And you ask, you're going to get a better reception. Whereas if you walk up, you put a camera in your face and you start screaming about a cult. Now, there is a time and place to be yelling it's a cult. We know this, right? Outside of the Scientology Testing Center. But if your goal is to engage Scientologists in conversation, you don't want to start with, how long have you been in the cult? You can if you're just there to, for the laughs, right? Or to push their buttons or to return what's called Scientology bull bait, which is when they push your buttons to try and find what sets you off. But if you want to have these conversations, this is a good way to do it. And Liz and others did a great job. And he was sharing about how his son's been in this organization for like 30 years. I was like, oh, my heart was breaking as I was listening to it. And Liz asked him, like, when was the last time you were on vacation? I mean, these are kind of questions that kind of make you think as a Scientologist, when was the last time I was on vacation? Because your vacations are going to Scientology and using that time off to do Scientology. So you save it for that. There's not a lot of other time, for the average Scientologist who's not super wealthy to be able to do those kinds of things. Chris without a Hellcat also had a bullhorn, which he was using to bullbait, as Scientology calls it, Scientologists in the building by saying, attention Scientologists, you need to come out and go eat dinner because you need to remain sessionable and studentable. These are key Scientology kind of words. In Scientology, when you're doing courses or you're doing Scientology auditing, you have to make sure you get enough sleep and you have to make sure that you're well fed so that you register on the e-meter that Scientology uses. They do this whole test where you hold the can. It's called a metabolism test, and it's to determine if you are well rested and well fed enough to do your Scientology interrogation or your Scientology counseling. You take a deep breath and you let it out. And the Scientology auditor watches what the Neil does and determines if this is good enough or not. So getting enough to eat is very important. And the Aaron and company was going to stick around because course was getting out and Scientologists were going to be arriving for the next shift for Scientology courses and auditing at that advanced organization of Los Angeles. So while they're out there waiting for this, they're kind of on either side of the doors thinking, well, this will be great. Scientologists will just come through and we'll be able to chat with them because they got to go eat. The staff members have to go eat. There are tunnels that go into the street, but public in general aren't allowed to use those. So I don't know if that's changed. I know definitely in my day, it was something that staff members, certain ones could use. So they're out there passing the time, waiting for it to get close to 7:00. And they go down the street and they're chatting and different things. Oh, wait, I got to back it up. I didn't finish telling you the story about Kevin. Ooh, I digressed. So Kevin, the Scientologist, is talking to Liz Gale and she's asking him these very pointed questions. Security guy comes out again. What is his name? Tell me in the chat. I think it's James, the security guy. Is that his name? Same guy who took away the Russian lady, he comes out and he tries to do the same thing with physically moving Kevin, the 34-year in Scientologist. And you see Kevin kind of flinch like this, like a little bit of get off me. That's the vibe. That's what I feel I saw. You tell me what you saw. But Kevin does go and walk into the building. But I thought that was interesting too, where he was a little like, get off me. I thought that was very interesting. That's not something that you see often that's something that's going to get Kevin in trouble. Kevin could very likely be being questioned today and interrogated about why he went out there and spoke to these people, and he might be punished for it and may need to make up the damage and beg for acceptance back into the group. So, yeah. So that happened. So everybody's kind of down the street, not in front of the main entrance where they're waiting for people who are on course and doing Scientology auditing to come out. They're down the street waiting for it to become closer to 7:00. What happens? The police show up. The LAPD shows up. I think there were 2 cars, 4 or 5 officers. So everybody okay, well, let's see what's happening here. They go over to the officers who line up on the sidewalk, just standing there like this. Actually, they had their hands kind of behind their back. They're just looking very official, standing there, not answering questions. I think one of them may have said they were waiting for a supervisor, but just lined up on the sidewalk. It was kind of odd. We're all watching, waiting for something to happen. Is a supervisor going to come? What's going to happen? What's happening? And it's all being caught on video, of course, and live streamed on the internet. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. It turns out they were there to distract the protesters from being at the door where the Scientologists were going to go in and out of. Because while they were down there filming the police, Scientologists were then going in and out of the door. So the LAPD, I guess, was acting in a way as private security. I don't know. They were all in uniform as, I don't know, a distraction tactic to distract the protesters away from the building so Scientologists could come and go. I thought it was interesting. Salty Rider, yeah, it was an attempted baiting and distracting. I agree with you. That was pretty obvious. That was like, okay, you didn't know it was at first, and given the events of the other day, it was a little tense at first. And a couple people had even ended their live streams. I think Aaron had ended his live stream and he got back on. And that's pretty much what happened. So then Jessica Palmadessa, who is on YouTube and TikTok, link to her video in the description, and others went back to the Hollywood Testing Center. So they're over there doing their thing. And at one point, this guy comes up to Jessica. And I think this is interesting because this is the kind of thing that people need to keep an eye out for, how people will come and try to stir up trouble and push your buttons. So this guy shows up who Jessica shared later has been, how do the kids say it? Sliding into her DMs. That's how you say it, right? Sliding into her DMs and asking her out. And she's like, no. She's been turning him down. So he shows up and gets in her face like, why are you just covering about Scientology? There's so many other things to do and go and talk about. He's basically trying to discourage her from being there and doing what she does and what she's doing as an activist in exposing Scientology. Why would you do that? Right? It just seemed weird. So she gets rid of him, but it was something I think that was worth mentioning because it's just, again, just something you got to keep an eye on. And she got rid of him and other people had her back on it there. So that was good. But it's interesting too that, he was trying to get her to go out with him and you just got to watch. You just got to watch these things. Now, one of the things, how outside the Hollywood Testing Center, they play that movie about the way to happiness, which is a Scientology front group. And little reminder, please hit the subscribe button. I would really like that and like the video as well. Would truly appreciate it. It's a front group for Scientology. Scientology has many front groups, and their job is to go out there and create a feeder line for people into Scientology. That's just part 1. Part 2, which is also very, very important. These Scientology front groups, like the Way to Happiness, the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, Criminon, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, also exist so Scientology can do countless press releases taking credit for work that doesn't actually completely get done, but paint themselves as doing all this humanitarian work and help. Now, back in the day when I was a Scientologist, it was the beginning of being on my way out. And I thought, well, you know what would be fun? I just want to shake it up. Because remember, up until this point, I've pretty much been like, I was in the Sea organization, I was a staff member, and then I was a parishioner, not on staff for the Sea Org, but doing Scientology services and having my doubts and wanting to leave. And I thought, oh, I'll do this pageant. This be fun. You get to have a platform. I hadn't completely made the decision to leave Scientology. Doing this, it was the Mrs. Minnesota International pageant. And part of doing it was the beginning of really starting to open my eyes about the lies in Scientology. So early on, I partnered with the Foundation for a Drug-Free World because I thought, well, this would be great. I can help educate people about drug abuse. My dad, my biological dad, it's been something he has struggled with my entire life. So it was something that was important to me, that had meaning, that I really wanted to somehow contribute to because it had affected my family so much. So I connect with the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, and they basically end up just wanting to sell me Scientology books. Honestly, that's what they were trying to do. That's what that was all about. So I do my thing with the pageant and all that. And that is actually about the point too, where I make the decision I am leaving Scientology. And if you follow my channel, you know that moment happened during a mall shooting in Seattle when I was hiding in the back of a Journey store and realized, like, if I died, I would die stuck in Scientology. And that's it. I was done. As long as I had my children, I was going to leave, even if it blew up my marriage, my family, 3 generations of my family, everything else. I executed a 2-year plan, left with 3 generations of my family. But let's talk about the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. They put out these booklets educating people about drugs, right? Now, I don't know if you guys know, and especially for those of you in Los Angeles, you might want to know this. There is something coming up. Let's take a look at this. There is something very important coming up in the world of the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. Let's see. I was going around, I think I was on the Facebook maybe, I don't even remember where, I think it was, and I found this. Drug-Free World Convention, save the date. Y'all get out your calendars, save the date. International, Drug-Free World International Convention. Remember, this is a Scientology front group. Happening in 2024, when? April 4th and 5th. Where? Los Angeles. But where in Los Angeles? Wait, maybe I missed it. Drug-Free World International Convention 2024. No, April 4th and 5th. Los Angeles. Where? Where's it going to be? Doesn't say. Well, what can I expect, right? So I'm thinking, what? You tell me. What can I expect? Oh, learn best practices in drug prevention. Okay. Connect with like-minded organizations and advocates. All right. How to implement the Truth About Drugs program in your area. How to bring about a drug-free world. All right. Foundation for a Drug-Free World, Drug-Free International Convention. They're not saying where it is. It's just mysteriously somewhere in Los Angeles. Here's what you're going to get. Maybe if you pre-register, they tell you where it's going to be. Where in Los Angeles? What if I need to make accommodation plans, right? What if I need to book a short-term rental or a hotel, or I want to make plans? Well, you can pre-register. You just got to give your first name, your last name, your email, your profession, your organization, your city, your state, your country. How did you hear about this convention? Was it email? Was it social media? Was it a friend or colleague or other? Now, have you worked with the Truth About Drug materials? They're trying to vet you to find out if you're legit or not. So they don't even tell you where this thing's going to be, right? Why? Because they don't want protesters and people to show up. Show up when? April 4th through 5th, 2024 in Los Angeles. They're not saying where yet, to be announced. Oh, also, you got to give consent. I consent to having my data processed by the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, according to the privacy notice and terms of service. And don't get it twisted. Please note that the foundation does not offer to pay for travel and accommodations. If you will need a visa to attend, in other words, if you're coming from outside the country, please apply for this with your local embassy. But don't get it twisted. We're not trying to pay for you to come here, your accommodations or anything like that. Isn't that funny? I thought that was very interesting. Let's not say where it is, right? No. Let's just screen people. Let's get all their contact info because we all know how fun it is to get on a Scientology email list or call list. Maybe then they'll tell you where it is. And then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe, just maybe it says somewhere on the website for the Foundation for a Drug-Free World where this international convention is going to be. So I thought, well, I don't know. Let's look. Let's check it out. I know the website. I've been there before. Let's look. Here's the thing about Scientology front groups. They don't tell you they're Scientology front groups. You can find somewhere, usually at the very bottom of a page, where it'll show, in fact, we'll just look at it. It'll show that they are supported by the Church of Scientology, right? We support this initiative as if it's a simple thing. So I'm looking on the website, I'm scrolling down, and I'm sorry if this gives anybody vertigo. It's giving me vertigo right now, just scrolling down like this. Let's see. Oh, educators, resources for educators, which, by the way, I don't know if you knew it or not, but you could get a DVD. You could get a DVD about how to create a group for the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. You know, get that DVD, put it in your DVD player, which is probably right next to your VHS recorder or maybe your beta. For you youngins, beta back in the day was what almost took off when there was VHS, but most people went with VHS, you know, the old tapes that kind of look like a brick in a way. And then we went to DVD, and then many of you probably are used to streaming. So here's Scientology over there with their DVDs, right? You can sign up, you can get the DVD. So I'm like, okay, I just want to know, where is it going to be? So I think, well, where is the Foundation for a Drug-Free World? Because maybe it's going to be there, right? Maybe they have an event space. Maybe it's going to be in the office. Maybe, I don't know. Let's find out. So once you get past all their pushing for their DVD, get that DVD. So many people use a DVD. We talk about them being out of touch. Oh, I don't know why we think that. Look, here's an address. Here's an address. Okay, maybe the Foundation for a Drug-Free World that Scientology claims they support, they like to sponsor it, but it's not them. It's not a Scientology front group to get you into Scientology, right? Or to just try to create all of this good press for Scientology doing something about drugs while they go and commit human rights abuses. Don't even get me started on how out of touch they are too with it's hilarious. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, check out like their booklet on marijuana, which is legal in half the states in the country right now. That's being used medically in so many ways. And no, they're like, no, man, that's a gateway to heroin. So anyways, I digress. I'm looking and I'm like, okay, so here's an address. Maybe they have an event space and this international convention is going to be there. So let's see, where is this? Let's click on the address, 6331 Hollywood Boulevard. Y'all see this here? Where's 6331 Hollywood Boulevard? Anybody recognize it? Anyone? Bueller? In the chat, in the comments? It's the Hollywood Guarantee Building where Scientology management is. It's where the protesters have been going outside and watching the buses go in and out, watching them go in and out with vans and bang up their mirrors and stuff. It's a Scientology management building. That's where the Foundation for a Drug-Free World is. It says right there on their website. They're on the 7th floor of the building. We've seen some great pictures of this building. Here they are, right? Boom, right there on Hollywood Boulevard. And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool, right? There. Oh, yeah, here's a good picture of it. That's a great picture of the building. You see it in live streams all the time. Picture of the building. There they are. They're on the 7th floor. Oh, interesting. So the Foundation for a Drug-Free World that Scientology says they sponsor, they're happy to sponsor, but you don't see anywhere on there that it is run by Sea Organization members. You don't see on there that it's run by Scientology itself. They position it. This is Scientology PR tactics at work. They position it so that it's something that they support, not something that they themselves are doing. So there we are. We got the building there, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. So there's the building. That's where it is. Okay. Oh, look at this. They even have 518 reviews about that Scientology building. Church of Scientology International is what it says there. Huh. Let's just maybe just peek at a couple, right? Maybe we'll just peek at a couple of these. You guys want to take a look? So here's a review from Ash. This is a week ago. The receptionist was very nice and friendly. I think her name was Pennywise, if I'm not mistaken. They asked me to sign a contract that apparently gives them my soul, my credit card info, and I can no longer see my friends and family. I don't know what any of that stuff means. It's probably just the usual terms and conditions stuff, right? Anyways, I can't wait to start my first free lesson this week. Only $69.99 per hour. You guys actually changed my life. Thank you so much for everything. Hashtag girlboss, hashtag live, laugh, love. Then I thought, you know what? I'm being unfair. I should look more. And you know what? You can't just judge on like one review, right? So at this Hollywood building where all the protesters are, where the Foundation for a Drug-Free World is on the 7th floor, that means that when the Sea Organization members come out of there and are getting on the buses, some of them are, that's what they're doing in there. So let's just check it out from someone else. From C here. This was a month ago. 1 star? What? Worst bloody place out. I'm visiting LA from Australia, and on my last day there, today I had errands and activities to do and happened to walk past this guy who handed me a free personality test flyer. I told them I didn't want to get scammed, and they reassured me it wasn't a scam. Because, you know, if they say it's not a scam, it's not a scam. It's not a scam, right? Because they said it's not a scam. I decided to go along with it as I was quite curious and was led on to complete 3 tests that took 30 minutes long. And that's not all up. That's not all up, but each test was 30 minutes or so. So that's a lot of tests. That's a lot of time. They took me through a series of stress tests, etc. So on the e-meter, they do something called a stress test where they pinch you, show you the reaction of the needle on the dial while you're holding the e-meter cans. Then they ask you to recall the pinch, and they'll show you that the needle reacts in a similar way to the actual physical pain, that mentally you're reacting to it that way. That's what they believe. That's what they say. Mate, I kid you not. Tell me why the lady reporting back to me was so loud. So this is the person giving this person their results. They're getting the results for their test that they're doing in the Scientology building. And the person giving the results apparently is yelling. So this person is loud and pretty much degraded me in front of everyone that was there. How embarrassing. And not to mention, I had other things to do within a short time frame, and she would not listen. She literally told me that I should take her advice and buy a $200 seminar package instead of exploring Hollywood. I told her that I would rather explore Hollywood because I'm not from America. She kept insisting I buy this stupid seminar package and forced me to get cash out from the ATM or use my card to pay for the package on the spot. Go to the ATM, get some cash, use your card. I said I had to go, and she still would not listen. And she then continued to degrade me by saying if I didn't buy the package, I wouldn't be happy. We've heard this over and over and over again. Some of the live streamers protesting Scientology themselves have had this experience. LA Cam on YouTube has shared his experience in doing a personality test, and that they pretty much told him something similar. I said I had to go, and she still would not listen. And she then continued to degrade me by saying if I didn't buy the package, I wouldn't be happy, right? I said it's like to find out more info, and she proceeded with it's okay if you don't have to lie to me. You can be honest if you don't want to buy anything. See, right on the attack, right on the guilt trip, the manipulation. You don't have to lie to me. If you don't want to buy it, you can just say. Sounds like this person was saying that, and this person just wasn't getting it. The Scientologist wasn't getting it. I guess you'll buy something in the next 20 years, is what was said to this person. Not to mention these people are just volunteers. Steer away. These are things that we've known, that we know, and that we've known. So it's and here we are, right? At the Foundation for a Drug-Free World that is sponsored by the Church of Scientology, but they don't make it clear that it's actually run by the Church of Scientology, so much so that it's on the 7th floor of their management building on Hollywood Boulevard, a building which gets some pretty interesting reviews out here. Oh, here's a good one. Let's be fair. Maybe we'll read a couple. Old Soul. This person's given 37 reviews, so surely they know what they're talking about here. 1 star. Ooh, shocking. I visited this building years back while I was still in. So I think this might be somebody who was a Scientologist. Was under supervision on the way and out, even to the bathroom. So what they're saying is somebody was watching them the whole time. When I went to this organization and said I wanted to leave, they put me under what's called security watch, where someone has to watch you. I was held in the security office. In fact, I painted the security office, me and another person who wanted to leave this organization. The cult is finally going down. Interestingly, they are creating their own enemies and never learn from it. Do a lot of interesting research and then make your own decisions. Oh, it's just so awesome. They just continue. Here we are in the day and age of the internet where people can go in and do these Scientology tests, which are designed to get them into Scientology, but can go online and leave these reviews. Because if you have a Google page, right, I guess you can make all these reviews. Now, what happened to Anne Rodriguez? This was a month ago. She says cult just want you to buy their book and sign a billion-year contract to get $50 a week learning about Xenu. And L. Ron Hubbard, beware, cult. Another person, 4 days ago. So this one's current. Maybe it gets better. No, 1 star. Scientology is a human trafficking cult. Educate yourself before falling for any other scams. Okay, here's one 2 weeks ago. Does it get better? No. Called and asked them to join their cult, and they hung up on me. So rude. Will not be joining this one. Matt Williams, local guide, 33 other reviews, 1 star, 3 days ago. Get these reprehensible people out of the country. Scientology is a disease in society. Okay, maybe we're just not going back far enough, right? Come on, let's be honest. There's been a lot of attention being brought to Scientology, and people might be trolling. So let's go further back before the protest. Caleb. Caleb has done 609 reviews on the Google with a bunch of photos. So surely this person knows what he's talking about. 1 star. There's a photo though. And this was a year ago. Not sure if anyone is really wondering why so many people are Scientologists, so many in quotes. The building puts off a rather cold and unwelcoming vibe, like that of an abandoned hospital. Watch some videos on these people and educate yourself before showing up, and don't give them your money. I think you get the point. In fact, I think, because you tell me in the chat in the comments, I think each day we need to explore the different reviews at the different churches of Scientology and the different Scientology front groups, because in all fairness, let's hear what the people have to say. Okay? There's got to be some good ones in there. And there are. I've seen a couple, but I also know the people who wrote them and know for a fact they write them trying to sound like they just started in Scientology. I'm like, girl, I see you. You were in 30 years. I knew you when I was a child. So, good. Okay. So you guys think this is a cool idea. So we'll do that then. We'll touch upon each day and we'll do a little segment called Scientology Reviews. Let's check them out. So, all right, we're going to go through a couple questions here. Susan Jacobson, Cleo Strange Was the 4 cops saying that they have no clue what they were called out about, waiting on Scientology and their supervisor? That's my understanding. So this is in reference to the officers that were called later in the evening. In fact, Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology had already stopped his stream and he restarted again. The police showed up, stood on the sidewalks. Nobody knew why. Turns out it was like totally a distraction so people could leave the Scientology building down the street. Stasia, is that how you say it? Stasia. I watched Down the Rabbit Hole this morning and someone had video of Aaron's abuser and his dog with Church of Scientology members being friendly and petting the dog. No affiliation with the Church of Scientology there, though. No. Just because Patrick, right, the guy with the dog, I think his name's Patrick Perry, just because there's multiple videos of him outside Scientology having his dog play with the Scientologist and being friendly. No relationship there. Have a relationship with Scientology. We're not saying I'm not saying, I can just speak for myself. I'm not saying that that's a problem in and of itself. If you live in the neighborhood, have a relationship with who you want. But when you start using a dog to hurt people, when you threaten people, when you physically assault people yourself in defense of Scientology, and then you claim you have no association with them, that's a problem. That is a problem, Patrick, because the videos say something else. And you're right. Down the Rabbit Hole, she's on YouTube. Check her out. I will try and remember to link a description to the video, which I think, and if he's in the chat, let me know. Wasn't it Davey Mismanage? I think is his YouTube channel that shared that video. I'm gonna look that up and we'll see. Has anyone noticed that Patrick said he had spoken to the police in DOA live stream? So that's another channel. Shortly after the assault, this was hours before the arrest and response to Aaron's call. Yeah, I did. I saw that. It's like he went around the corner and stumbled upon that guy who does that channel, who then interviewed him. And Patrick gave his version of events, which was not what had happened. It was not what had happened, Patrick. And I thought it was so interesting that suddenly he's just kind of like, calm and quiet and like, this is what happened with the sign with I was just walking by minding my own business. Not true. All right, baby snake. My dad started 100 AA meetings in the late 1970s and early 1980s and was heavily involved in their service organization for 40 years. I was involved with AA from the day I was born until I was 21. Oh, that's interesting. So tell me more about that. Are you saying that he started different AA meetings and were some of them held at the C organization or at Scientology buildings? I'm curious about that actually. So let me know. Pirate Tom First Class. If a Scientologist comes to the USA on religious visa, how long is it valid for? Do you know how long a Scientologist can stay in the US on a green card? I don't, but I bet you somebody in the chat or the comments does know. And that's a great question because that's part of what we're seeing. I feel like the people that we're seeing outside of Scientology that are being interviewed, they're coming from a lot of different places, and that's mostly who you're seeing. And you got to kind of wonder like, because surely Scientology wouldn't recruit people who were desperate to flee their country because of oppression and other reasons to get them to work as slave labor for Scientology. No, that would be human trafficking, right? If you got them over on this religious visa and then you made them work for you for free, and then if they left, you charge them for all the training and things that they did, and also you hold on to their passport while they're there. I don't know. Would Scientology do that? Yeah, they have, and they do. But the exact details of how long they can be in the country and all that, I don't know, but maybe somebody else does. Asanke. Human rights. How ironic. They claim fight for human rights while taking the human rights of fellow Scientologists. Oh, it even gets better than that. I don't have it pulled up, so I'm going to save it for tomorrow, but we will specifically talk about the human rights aspect of their front group. We are going to talk about, probably tomorrow, get into more how the Church of Scientology infiltrates legitimate organizations and interfaith groups to hijack their members to volunteer for Scientology and then claim credit for it. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and we're going to get into it. I'm going to get more into that tomorrow. A couple times tomorrow, actually. Me and Taz, have you been following the drama with Skateboard Guy and Jessica P? He's creepy. Yeah, I follow the drama. There's going to be some degree of drama like that. I don't know, like, so for those that don't know, the long story short of it is the guy on the skateboard just said some really nasty things about Jessica, women, groups of people. And last night, I think it was on Jessica PALMADESSA's TikTok, because I couldn't find the video on YouTube. It might have just been on her TikTok. She had a conversation with William Good, Scientology Audit, Streets LA, who really is the person who got this movement going with being outside and videotaping and exposing Scientologists. He had another channel called Film the Police, and he's been an advocate for some time in exposing police corruption, which is what led him to Scientology. Isn't that interesting? Police corruption led him to Scientology. And now this whole connection between this incestual relationship between the LAPD, certain members of the LAPD, and Scientology is all playing out. So there was this drama with the skateboard guy, and it sounded like Will even said, like, he's just not welcome back here. So I think that's the end of it. He's not welcome back there. We'll see if he shows up or not. But I did see and hear what he was saying, and it was disgusting and not okay. Monica Cook, they found recruiters in street clothes yesterday. Is this normal or new tactic so they are visible? Where did they find them? Because it's a tactic. Definitely it's a tactic. Because you can still spot them in the uniforms. Like you can't spot them in their regular clothes either. Even in their normie clothes, if they're holding the pamphlet or have a clipboard trying to get people for a personality test, But yeah, they'll totally do that. That is a tactic, so keep an eye out for that. K-Cat, do we know if anyone has contacted the Aftermath Foundation? Don't burn people, just a yes or no will do. I don't know who you're talking about, if they were contacted. So maybe, K-Cat, you could explain that a little bit more to me and I can answer your question. Anna McLaren, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your support. It helps the channel. First super chat with you. Really enjoy your site. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate it a lot. Okay. So Super Solomon saying MacArthur Park trying to hide in plain sight. Yeah, absolutely. So they're out there not in uniform and trying not to be so obvious about what they're doing. Yes. They were in red and some normal clothes, Salty Rider is saying. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Stasia. My name is short for Anastasia. Oh, okay. My sister names for me. Cute. Stasia. So it's Stasia. How lame can the LAPD be when they overly point out that Perry is not connected to Scientology, but he sure is damn friendly? Yeah. I think that was such. Ooh, we got to turn up the menopause fan just a little bit. I don't know why I wear hoodies doing this when I know this is going to happen. Because otherwise I'm cold. I'm either overheated and hot or a little on the cold side. I digress. Back to this. Yes, he is friendly with them. And it is interesting that the LAPD felt they needed to call that out. Oh, but just so you guys know, he's not actually connected to Scientology. And we're going to just bring it up and point it out because that's not weird at all. But our overlord, David Miscavige, Dictator Dave, who runs Scientology as a dictatorship, told us that we needed to. This is just what goes through my head of what they're saying. I don't know for sure. What do I know? But again, why call it out? Why would you call it out? You called it out because that's something Scientology would do. Call it out like that and be obvious about it. Bring attention to it. You could have done the press release and not said it. Why would you do that? Why do you feel? Because saying it makes you look guilty, right? Pointing it out like that. MacArthur Park is melting. Yep. Foxy Jane 88, same thing. The LAPD makes it clear Dog Dude isn't associated with the Church of Scientology, but fails to ever mention their own connection to Scientology. Faith in Blue, Police Athletic League, Talman at CC. Yes. So the Faith in Blue, I'm going to talk more about that later, but just so you know, Faith in Blue is an organization that nationally does events. They've been around for about 3 years. I forget the name of the organization behind it, but Scientology has positioned themselves with this organization, Faith in Blue, to hold events and cleanups with the LAPD, all for clout. Scientology front groups and doing these things and getting people to go out, it's all for clout. It's all so they can say, look at us working with the Los Angeles Police Department and cleaning up the streets of Hollywood. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad they do. Anything they actually do like that, cleaning up the streets, if they really did do it, that's a good thing. But you'll notice, why couldn't Scientology just go, hey, we're the Church of Scientology. We want to clean up the streets on Hollywood? No, they position themselves with other nonprofit interfaith organization and groups to bring legitimacy to them as a church, as Scientologists. It's a tactic. I know it is. I was trained to do this in Scientology. This is a thing. It's totally what they do. It's all called positioning. If you stand close enough and get in enough photos with somebody legitimately doing the work by association, people might think, well, you're okay. They're okay. I mean, we like Faith in Blue and they're doing things with Faith in Blue, right? So shouldn't it be fine? There's a lot of different front groups, like I said, that we are going to be talking about on this channel that we're going to be sharing and exposing. So make sure you come back, because you probably know about some of these that we're going to be talking about in the coming days and weeks. Be Kind says, Natalie, I sent you the MacArthur Park info with the timestamps this morning. Awesome. Thank you. Big thank you and shout out to everybody who emails me. I get, I have to work through them. I definitely try to respond. I would like to. And if I don't think that it's not because I appreciate it. I do. It just, sometimes there's a lot, but keep them coming, because it's a great way. There's a lot going on. So if you see something about Scientology on the internet, say something. Email me, Natalie@tonkatalk.com, and then let's talk about it. Foxy Jane 88 is asking if a mod can star her question so you don't have to repeat it. Might be easier for you to repeat it, because then I'd have to go back and find it. Hey, Brisby Tales. Hi, Natalie. The squirrels and I are here. Always great. Always great. And I've got some squirrel merch in my store. If you want to check it out on my channel, there's a link, and the mods are probably sharing the link as well in the chat. I'm so behind on so many things that I want to make. There's my Tony. Yep. Squirrel. And if you're new to the channel, squirrel is what Scientology has been calling the protesters outside, because they talk about Xenu and body thetans. And in Scientology, if you talk about Scientology outside of Scientology, especially, you're considered a squirrel. If you practice Scientology outside of Scientology, you're considered a squirrel, a suppressive person. ACU Punk, right? You're talking about the LAPD press release. Why mention Scientology at all? That's the question. That is it completely. Lord Xenu, if Tom Cruise woke up to knowing he was part of a cult, how damaging would this be to Scientology? Well, it depends. It depends on what Tom Cruise does when he wakes up to the fact that he's in a cult. And I got to be honest with you, there are people in Scientology, mainly David Miscavige and other people. Scientology is it's not large. I mean, we're being gracious to say there's 20 to 30,000 Scientologists in the world. There's a lot of people. Not all of them are a-holes. Okay. Some of them are. Some of them know exactly what they're doing. Some of them know where the money's being hidden, that the abuses are being covered up. Not all of them. Some of them do. And those are the ones that we're calling out. I think Tom Cruise knows. I think he does. I think we know he's given preferential treatment. We know he's given slave labor from the Sea Organization to redo his airplane hangar. pimp out one of his rides. That was a story that came out years ago that SEA organization members were doing that. And remember, these are people who have dedicated the next billion years of their lives to forwarding the aims of Scientology. They forego having families, spending time with family, having any type of a life, just living 24/7, living in Scientology buildings, working in Scientology buildings for Scientology. And my personal opinion is that Tom Cruise is well aware. I don't know that he would use the word cult. In fact, maybe not, but he knows that it's abusive and that he, this is my opinion, is just an asshole in or out of Scientology. So I don't know. It's some of them know. Some of them know. James Smith is saying, streets and the squirrels found Scientologists selling books under a tent on the street. Isn't that off policy? Not if they're selling books for Scientology. So what they'll often do is they'll put up a table with their Dianetics books and an e-meter, and they'll do what they call a pinch test. Like I was saying earlier, they pinch you, the needle reacts, and then they have you recall the moment of the pinch, and the needle reacts, and they're like, oh, see, it's the same movement. This e-meter, this magical e-meter works. We told you. So they do that. And then they try to sell Dianetics books off of that. If it didn't work for them, they wouldn't do it. So it's a way that they do actually sell some books. You'll see it. You'll totally see it all over the place. Mark Murphy, you got to tell me more about this. Kind of felt sorry for the guy in the elevator incident with the cart. Ooh, I somehow missed that. I don't know about it. Somebody tell me. Tell me in the chat. Tell me in the comments. Terry's saying, I don't think Patrick Perry, and Patrick Perry is the man who assaulted Aaron on video live on the internet being streamed from multiple views, I don't think Patrick Perry requires that cane either. He never leans on it, just drags it around. I wonder if he carries it to use as a weapon because he was really quick to use it on Aaron. I will say that thought did cross my mind. I went through a couple year period where I was having neurological issues and I needed to use a cane. Many times I should have been using a cane and didn't. It was a whole thing, but long story short, there up until actually not that long ago were times when I needed to use a cane. And I could get away with not using it if it was short distance, which was helping me. The whole idea was to slow me down and use the cane so I wasn't overexerting myself and my injuries. So I thought that too. But I don't know. I mean, he did say he's a veteran with PTSD. I'm sure he had some kind of injury, but it crossed my mind too. You can't help but wonder because there's just so many moving parts of crazy and things that are actually not factual. When you see something on video and you try to say that that's not what's happening, it's you got to kind of question, you kind of look a little closer at that person. Right? And thank you in the chat for the reminder for people to hit the like button and subscribe as well, and check your subscribe button. Make sure you're still subscribed. Quicksilver, did you watch the bus loading last night? They added new frosted glass to the front, pulled the vans in, and used umbrellas to hide members' faces in their cameras. I did catch some of that over the last few days, and I heard last night, I caught a tiny part of where they actually banged up the van and trying to go in and out. Because what Scientology is doing at this management building, they don't want the SEA organization members coming out the front door and being photographed and videoed. It's not just stopping them from hearing what the protesters are saying. That's part of it. It's so that the SEA organization members who have been missing from their families, who have families and friends who haven't heard from them for decades, might recognize them and go, wait a minute. I thought John there was I thought maybe he passed away. I hadn't heard from him. They'll recognize family members and friends and might want to do something about it. So the SEA organization doesn't want these people being photographed and videoed. That is a large part of it. Trust me on that, because that's what happens. And then it becomes a situation, a big situation for Scientology, when people start wanting to do welfare checks on family members that they see in these videos. I totally do. Simon Superstar, little Davy from the fake Space Navy should do an interview with Aaron. I'd watch that. Oh my gosh. Completely it would be the best. It would be the best. And honestly, I think Aaron would be the perfect person to do it. As much as I would want to do it as well, I don't think I could maintain a straight face. I really can't. I think I would just be like this the whole time. I think Aaron could do it. Ash is asking, is Scientology linked to Living Legends of Aviation Awards? Tom Cruise and Travolta, both recipients of their awards, and Travolta just gave one to Prince Harry. Let's look into it. Tony, if you're still in the chat, can you shoot that so I remember? Legends of Aviation Awards. Let's look and find out. There was that it has happened before. Jamie, Natalie, can you tell us about the Anthony Building? The Anthony Building is a building where Sea Org members live. I am just hoping that they renovated it at some point because it was nasty. That's where you hear a lot about the roaches and people piled on top of each other and in the space. I don't know what it is now. That was back in my day. So it'll be interesting to see, like, did they renovate it? Where is it now? What's happening? I think we are going to learn more and hear more about that. I really think we are. CC Shelby. My oldest, her name is Shelby. I love that name. I had no idea about the Chase credit card scam until it was talked about live yesterday. Okay. Let's talk about that for a quick minute. The Chase credit card scam. Here is what was happening. Here is what had happened. This was in California. It also was happening in Florida at the Flag Land Base. So Scientology, Sea Organization members, Scientologists, would do a few things. They would find Sea Organization members, some of them who might have had some level of credit, would get credit cards in their names and then loan this money on the credit cards out to Scientologists, who would use the money to pay for Scientology services or to donate to one of many Scientology scams. They would also take credit card information of Scientologists and call the credit card companies, pretend to be the Scientologists, find out their credit limit, and try to get it raised, often without the Scientologists ever knowing. These are people who, when I was in Scientology, in fact, in the blue buildings, at the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, this was the last time that I was there as a Scientologist. I went to the bathroom because my next step was going to be the registrar. Renee McKinstry, I think was her name. She was one of them. Any of my ex-Scientologists in the chat or ex-Sea Org members, you would remember her. Hey, what happened to her, by the way? If anybody knows, can you let me know? I'm just curious because she was around. Maybe she changed her name too. Anyway, she was a registrar, so somebody who collected the money for the upper levels of Scientology. And I knew what their tactics were. They're so bold. They're like, give me your wallet. Literally, give me your wallet and we'll go through your wallet and take your credit cards. And I hadn't yet decided to leave Scientology. So during this time, I was just trying to dodge bullets. I was trying to keep them out of my business. So I couldn't be all, F you, I'm not giving you my wallet. Like, it would have led down a path of a lot of trouble. And I had 3 generations of my family in Scientology. I was just trying to get home back to Minnesota. So I go in the bathroom, I open my purse, I take out my wallet, I grab a couple of credit cards and I put them in my back pocket and I hide them. So I could just open and go, look, I don't even have any anymore. I got like a debit card. That you even have to do that, right? This is part of the scam. And this is how so many Scientologists, so many, ended up financially bankrupt because of these practices in Scientology. Terry, this is a good point. Totally aware of invisible illnesses, and I use a cane for balance. He doesn't use the cane correctly. I get that. He may or he may not, but I think it is important to acknowledge that there are people who have invisible illnesses or disabilities that you can't see. And sometimes they flare up and this was the situation with me. I could be fine one day, 2 days later, I would be really struggling with walking and I would need a cane. So I just want to acknowledge that, because that is something that I know I struggled with. But that totally can be a thing. So maybe he needs a cane, maybe he doesn't. Leaving Scientology, did PAC-based security withhold information from the police, like in your story? Did they withhold information from the police? In what time? In my story? Yeah. I mean, I think leaving Scientology, you might be talking about, I was SA'd and held in security, and I was a C organization member, and they wouldn't let me go to the police or, the doctor for that matter. I didn't even get medical attention. And I had bruises on my body. They saw it. They knew what happened. That is more of another story for another day. And I've done a couple of videos talking about that as well. But they withheld that from the police. It was, you know what? I'm going to tell you real quick, since we have a lot of new people to the channel. I got out of the C organization because after being sexually assaulted, it was covered up by the C organization. And I was told that if I never mention it, I don't have to do the long C organization routing form and interrogations. I would be allowed to leave the C organization and move. I was living in Seattle at the time. I was told, don't go back and talk to anybody in Scientology. Just leave and we will let you go as long as you never talk about this. I took the deal. I was in shock. I believed them that it was my fault that it happened. I was traumatized by it. And I kept that secret for 20 years. It's not a secret anymore, though. So yeah, it's just another example of how they cover these things up to protect themselves. They don't want the authorities. It's ironic because let's just take that situation. Oh, you don't want the police to come to the blue buildings to Scientology unless you're calling them as a victim. But otherwise, you don't want them to come if it's for anybody else who's a victim of Scientology or something that happens. But you call them right away if Scientology somehow is a victim. So interesting. You're going to see that over and over again. Foxy Jane 88, Faith in Blue was started in Atlanta after George Floyd and is genuinely meant to do good. I bet if people reached out to the parent org, so the parent organization, they would consider not allowing Church of Scientology to use their name or image. Foxy Jane 88. Could be. They at least should know. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't know that they're partnering with a human trafficking cult. Maybe they don't know. Find out. Let me know what you find out. Reach out. I definitely would love to hear. That actually is a great question. Charlie, Scientology is what? A pyramid scheme. Not wrong by my understanding. It is kind of like a pyramid scheme. There are Scientologists who their full-time job is what's called a field staff member. They get a commission, a 10% commission for every person that they bring into Scientology. Or let's say there's a Scientologist and they've not done their upper levels yet. They get a commission to bring that person into Scientology and get them to pay for Scientology services. Peggy Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Really helps support the channel. I live near Portland and plan on visiting them when I'm home. Right now I'm in Tucson. They only have a mission here. Is there any reason to pay them a visit while I'm here? I mean, why not? Isn't the weather great there too? Should be not too hot, a little cooler. Get out there, take some video, see what's happening. I'd be surprised to see if they're open and what's going on. But if you do, let me know. I'm here for it. Natalie@tonkatalk.com. Email me. I want to know. I want to know. I see your comment there, Tony. Yeah, we'll figure out the starring thing. Laura Flynn, where is the ethics when he takes advantage of the free labor when he knows damn well it is valuable? I'm going to tell you why. And you're probably talking about Tom Cruise and why Tom Cruise accepts slave labor from the Sea Organization on the backs of Sea Organization members who are making no money, who are living in not great conditions, sometimes with bunk beds 3-4 high, lined up one next to the other. That's how it was when I was there, 15, 20 to a room, and I'm talking a small room. Unless you got married, then you could have your own room, like I did with my husband at the time, but then we shared a bathroom with another couple. Exactly. This is let's get a little bit into the headspace of Tom Cruise and Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard said that when someone is in a position of power, in other words, they have a great influence, like Tom Cruise, like David Miscavige, that the rest of us, the rest of Scientology needs to support them and flow them power. He calls it flowing power to power because Tom Cruise has a lot of influence. And per the medal that he got, he's the most dedicated Scientologist on the planet, which let me tell you, I'll be honest. When I heard that at that event, when I was sitting there in the audience, I was out of the Sea organization by then. I was a parishioner and I'm sitting there and Tom Cruise is getting this medal for being the most dedicated Scientologist on the planet. I was butthurt. I'm going to tell you why I was butthurt about that. I had been in the Sea organization and slaved my butt off for Scientology, saw other Sea organization members, many of them working way hard than I do, because I've said this before. I worked at the lowest level in the Sea organization. I got promoted once and then got out of there not long after that. I was nobody in the Sea organization. I was just trying to keep my head down and do an excellent job at whatever it is I did do, whether it was working in the dining room or whatever. That mentality of flowing power to power, because he's a movie star and he has all this influence, it justifies all of these people who are actually dedicating their lives to Scientology. Misguided, yes, but they're still doing it. They're still dedicated. You think these people don't get anything out of it? Sea organization members don't get money. They don't get recognition. They're abused. They're mistreated emotionally, sometimes physically, spiritually for sure. Yet they're there doing the work for free. Everything from running Scientology the day-to-day to doing the landscaping around the buildings to keeping the course rooms open for Scientologists. But Tom Cruise is the most dedicated Scientologist on the face of the planet. You know what? Let's be honest. I'm still butthurt about it, and I'm not even a Scientologist anymore. I am butthurt for the other Scientologists, for Sea organization members specifically, because I knew what it was like and how hard many of them worked and toiled and were treated. And to see Tom Cruise up there receiving a medal for doing what? Making movies? For coming back into Scientology. That's for what? For divorcing Nicole Kidman and helping to turn her children against her. That's why he got that. For coming back into the fold. Had to keep him there. Had to pat him on the back. Just salute each other, him and David Miscavige. Oh, Super Solomon, Sea Org ran over homeless with his cart. Oh my gosh. Somebody send me a link to that. That's, wow. Just when you think. Be kind. You sent an email. Thank you very much. Just when you think it could not get any more worse with Scientology, boom, they do it again. Okay, good. I see your comments on there. I'll take a look at the video and we will chat about it. Kyle, my wife always said her mom refused to let her take the personality test at the Texas State Fair. It wasn't until the aftermath she figured out why. Me? I just never cared to. I know I'm a jerk. So your wife always said her mom refused to let her take the personality test at the Texas State Fair. Now you know why. A lot of people have heard a little bit about Scientology, but really don't understand the depth of the abuses and the human trafficking that goes on. That's why I want to dive into these front groups for Scientology. I want to share the information with you guys. I want to show you the receipts on it. People need to know. They could be in your neighborhoods already. They could be connected to your organization or your church, trying to infiltrate and get your members to do their work, and then they take credit for it. I have some great examples of that coming tomorrow. Ms. Amber Sunshine, do you think Tom Cruise is willing to go to court? Do you think Tom Cruise is willing to be a part of the investigation into this dark cult? No. He's just Tom Cruise, just being Tom Cruise. I don't think I don't know. I mean, somebody would have to go after him specifically. Would he volunteer to go and defend Scientology in court? Probably not. You never know, though. He's done some pretty dumb things. Mother of athletes, Tom Cruise wants to take over Scientology. Who are we kidding? He lost his wife and kid because Katie figured out Scientology is crazy and she didn't want any part of it. Yeah, she did. And she left. Wasn't Suri like 6 years old when she left? I started my major Scientology indoctrination when I was about like 9 or 10. And if you're new to my channel, I'll just tell you the story real quick. I started my Scientology indoctrination. I was born and raised in Hawaii. My mom was a staff member and she would go out and get people to do personality tests. She was what's called a body router in Scientology. So she'd go out into the streets of Waikiki, clipboard in hand, bring people into Scientology for personality tests. So I heard her spiel over and over and over again about how to do it. I'm like 8, 9 years old. My sister's 2 years younger than me. We're trying to make money. So we're drawing and coloring pictures and trying to sell them to make money for candy. We go across the street because we got kicked out of the building. Scientologist said, you can't sell your stuff in here, even though we're kids. That was hilarious. Well, serve them right. They should have just let us stay in the building because what happened next caused a huge incident for huge attention to be brought to Scientology by the FBI once again. And that is because my sister and I took our business out into the streets of Waikiki. We're like 7 and 9, 8 and 10. It's 1980. That date is important. We go across the street. We meet the security guard named Mark. We're like, hey, man, buy our pictures. We're trying to make some money for candy. And he did multiple times. Quarter here, 50 cents here. Frankly, I think he was one of the only customers that we had. And because I'd heard this spiel by my mom over and over again, I would often say, hey, you should come over and do a personality test. I was just a kid. What did I know, right? Well, he did. He goes across the street one day to the building, goes in, except he starts ranting, calling them a cult, telling them are a cult. He gets kicked out of there. Next thing I know, I'm in huge trouble with my mom, being told that the FBI is now looking at Scientology. Why? Why? Because he went in and ranted? No, because that Mark turned out to be Mark David Chapman, who not long after got on a plane, flew to New York, and murdered John Lennon. So when this happens and it's being investigated, this is 1980. It was December 1980 when this happened. When this happens, just a few years prior, Mary Sue Hubbard, the wife of L. Ron Hubbard, and several other Scientologists were sentenced to prison for the largest infiltration of the United States government in history at that point, and maybe even since then. The FBI raided Scientology with what was one of the largest FBI raids in the country. So this all happened prior to the Mark David Chapman thing, right? So it was like 77, 78. So 1980, boom, here we are. I'm out there trying to make money for candy with my sister. Come do a personality test. He goes in, he rants, raves, he leaves. He goes and he murders John Lennon. We had no idea that was going to happen. And so the FBI takes another look at Scientology. Is there a tie here, right? They got to flush it out. I don't know how they knew my sister and I were going back and forth. I don't know if it was something Scientology brought up or it was something they saw on camera, but that's what happened. And my family, we were actually banned for a little while from the church, which was great. But for my mother to be allowed back into the good graces of Scientology, we had to start our Scientology indoctrination as children. And that's when it started. After a while, we went back and actually started for real our Scientology training, which was our first steps in the indoctrination that led to us going into the SEA organization. I became a staff member when I was 15 after dropping out of school, encouraged by Scientology to do so. My sister joined the SEA organization when she was 14. She was sent from Hawaii by herself to Los Angeles, where she went on to work at the International Management Base and then at the LA Scientology base. My sister's you might see her on Tuesday. She's going to join me again for another live. And my sister's been out of Scientology a lot longer than I have, but she still never shared so much of what happened to her and her stories. And she's going to be sharing more of that. 20 plus years of secret stuff she never even told me that I'm only finding out about now. It's something. It's something. So that's how I started my Scientology indoctrination after inadvertently inviting Mark David Chapman into the Church of Scientology when I was 9, 10 years old. Me and Taz. Natalie, did you ever have to deal with David Miscavige personally? Nope. Walked by him once. That was it, but I've never had to deal with him. That I have not. That I have not. Oh my gosh, some of your comments, you guys are so funny. Yes, Willie Weed metabolism test on the ohm meter, which in Scientology is called an e-meter, to make sure that you are sessionable and all of that. Now, we're going to get it, like I keep saying, we're going to talk more about these Scientology front groups because I think it's really important, especially people who've never been in Scientology and don't know about this. We need to talk about it. There's so much to share. It's going to take multiple live streams, I think, to cover. And I think you're going to be very surprised about who they are, where they are, and they might be already in your neighborhood, at your church, at your organization, trying to infiltrate, trying to take credit for what your group is doing. We are going to talk about it, and it's a lot. I stayed up way too late. Finally, I wasn't staying up late last night watching some of the live streams. I stayed up too late because I went down this rabbit hole. I knew about the Scientology front groups, but I guess I never really looked into how much work Scientology does to hide the connection, the true connection to the church, like we just determined today. So many people at that Scientology management people building, not many, there's probably one or two actually working on the foundation for a drug-free world. I think we're going to see that. Hey, Liz Gale, find her Liz Gale on TikTok. She's my TikTok hero. I had to call her up and I'm like, Liz, how do you do the TikTok? And she kind of walked me through it. Because remember, I'm Gen X. I'm 53 years old, but I have a few boomer tendencies. Yes, Jenna was super brave to come. She is the best, and I will protect her with my freaking life. Liz Gale, I love you, girl. Jenna Miscavige was there. She's a niece of David Miscavige. More importantly, she grew up in Scientology. She bravely escaped. She bravely spoke out. She bravely wrote a book about it. Get her book. Liz Gale, by the way, also has a book, Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead. I think that's what it's called. Liz, if you're still there, tell me if I got it wrong or if somebody can put it in the chat. Liz has been amazing. I have just loved watching what you've been doing out there. To go through all of that too, it just had to have been harrowing. I don't even know. Liz, let's do a live stream together. I will text you, find out when you're getting back, and let's do that. Let's do that this week because I got questions, girl. I have questions. I have questions about your experience, and I have questions about the book as well that I want to talk about. So let's do that. Let's get it done. Let's do it. And Renee saying Jenna's book is great. Jenna is shiny and sparkly. Yes. There's Renee's comment. Jenna's book is great. Liz's book is on my list to buy and read. Yes, so many books. Yes, Casey, I agree. Liz Gale is the best. I hope you come back to LA to do it again. Also loving the clips you've uploaded. Ooh, I need to go get caught up on those. Liz was amazing. Speaking to the older man yesterday. Liz, I want you to share too when we do a live stream together, kind of like what you think about how to communicate to Scientologists, because you just did a great job. You did a great job with it. Cindy, Natalie, what about talking about the high suicide rate of young people in the Church of Scientology? Yes. It's on my list. I'll be honest. That's a tough one. It's a difficult one because there are so many, and these stories are so tragic. That's a hard one. That's really hard. If anybody has already gotten that started, if you've done the research, if there's any place that has been tracking the stories of people unaliving themselves in Scientology, let me know so we don't need to just start from nothing. I agree, Shannon. Liz is very approachable and amazing with people. She is. She's one of the first people outside of Aaron Aaron on Growing Up in Scientology reached out to me after I started talking on a different podcast that I do called Tonka Talk Community and Connection, where I share the ways people create community and connection where I live. And I started talking about my stories or sharing my story about Scientology and why I'm so passionate about community and connection, because I spent 35 years in a cult. And so anyways, I went on and did Aaron's channel. We did a marathon, almost 4-hour interview that I did not know was that long. I just started and it just didn't stop. I rolled with it. I had no idea that much time had passed, and I was mortified when I found out. But I reached out to Liz and was able to chat with her, and I like her. I like her a lot. That's why we need to do this live stream, because I have questions and I love what you did. You're right. Yep, Liz. Oh, that's a tough topic, but so important. Agree. So maybe that's something we could even tackle together, Liz, because honestly, when I think about that, the level of upset and anxiety that comes up, I don't think I can do it alone. That's going to be a group effort for sure. For sure, it's going to be. Oh, good. My Tony found Liz's book, Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead, Born In, Sparked Up, Got Out. Gotta love that. I love that. I need to get to reading. And Nancy, one of the mods, is selling a link to where you can get Liz's book as well. Be sure you do that. And also Jenna Miscavige's book too. I read it when it first came out, and oh my gosh. Oh, it was heartbreaking and good and fabulous all at the same time. So much of it. It was so great. Unapologetic me. Liz Gale, your authenticity and compassion really shone through. It was a sad but beautiful encounter. New sub on the way. Yes, make sure you go Liz Gale, and you subscribe to her channel and find her on TikTok, because her TikTok videos are awesome. I really like them. I love how she does them. And it's just this short form content. I feel like Liz Gale is the queen of the short form content when it comes to Scientology. I learn stuff even all the time when I'm watching it. Kimmy says, your interview with Aaron sucked me in. It felt like 10 minutes. I wanted more. I'm here as often as I can for more. Your stories and compassion keep me coming back. Thank you. I appreciate that. Truly. I appreciate all of you that you take the time to be here, that you take the time to comment, that you take the time to help expose these things and share about it, because the tides are returning for Scientology. Yeah, I watched Kathy saying she watched Liz's live yesterday when she was interviewing the older gentleman. I think that was Kevin. And the audacity of that security guard to swoop him away. Did you guys see? Didn't it seem like he kind of pulled away a bit when the security guard tried to manhandle him? And by the way, my friends, Scientologists are trained to physically move people around, because in Scientology auditing, you have to be ready to stop the person you're auditing, who is called a pre-clear, from trying to get out the door, even if you have to manhandle them to do it. You practice drills where you get people to physically do what you want them to do. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Okay, so remember, we are going to start talking about these Scientology front groups. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check your subscribe button. Would love it if you liked the video. If you see something about Scientology, say something. Email me at natalie@tonkatalk.com, because we're going to be getting into so much stuff and it's really hard to keep up with all of it. This is just going to grow more and more. I want to know what you guys think about it. Tell me what you're seeing. It really helps when you send me links, if you can mention the specific time that it was occurring in as well. We have a ton to get into on this channel, and I am here for all of it. I hope that you are too. In the meantime, go out and have the most amazing cult-free day.